Now we're seeing none. None of the chat. But maybe it'll act goofy again. I tried messing with it earlier, doing a couple little tests streams, and got it kind of working, but then it kept doubling up, and then it would just kept rolling back and forth. It's just super buggy for the chat. So, but we couldn't get it working last time, so yeah. I hit refresh on it one more time, and that's about it. Yep. See, I hit refresh on it, and then it starts doing double again, and it just keeps rolling back and forth, the same one over and over. So good morning, right? Huh? Good evening for some, morning for some, whatever it might be. And the chat annoys me enough, I'm going to turn it off, but I will just delete it. So it's been a while. So any word on TC after Tuya rolled out patch firmware? Good question. I have not looked. The chat's getting super annoying. Where's my dark reader? I had it off. Let me get this window sized. I knew I forgot something. New PSK format. Let's see. Wow, they've been deleting a lot of comments. I guess there's a lot of off-topic stuff. Yeah, it looks like some of the same stuff I was seeing previously. It seems to be, from what I've read, that there's a unique PSK key per device. And I know they're trying to get a lot of different dumps to the firmware, as well as have you pair it up with the Smart Life Tuya app, and then do a Wireshark dump while it's doing the pairing process, so they can get all the traffic back and forth between the two. So like this person was doing a capture and a backup on a GoSun switch. I guess the more the merrier. Maybe they can try to get it reverse engineered. It may be a while. It seems to, be a little more this time. But there's things always, we go full circle. So, and I'm turning the chat off of here. Let's see. Let's remove it. And I'll just try to add the chat back. Let's see what happens. I won't pick any settings. I'll just let it go default. See? Good old double chat. Good old Streamlabs, right? Hey, whatever. What's up, Darren? See who all we got in here. Oh, and Frederico made it. For Frederico, if y'all don't know who Frederico is, you probably should. And let me turn this junk out of here. Remove. And I'll have to remove it on the other ones too. But Frederico does a lot of work on the Tasmota auto discovery for Home Assistant. And I guess it probably got, you didn't miss anything too much. We've been playing with the chat box that's pissing me off, but I guess it got merged today, Frederico. Discovery update. So I haven't had time to really look at it. And let me see if we can zoom in a little bit for you guys. Okay, so I did see they were talking. There was someone asking about that. the deep sleep. Whenever a device like a battery power device would go to deep sleep, it would show unavailable because of the LWT, I'm assuming. And no, it does not, Leonardo. Federico fixed that. So, and actually, I know it's probably very surprising to, especially because of how much I was entrenched in wanting to do, the YAML code. I will say that now it's pretty much recommended that I tell everyone, unless you're really doing some weird stuff like some oddball three-way switches that need the events, iFans, which I know Federico's trying to do, but covers, some other little weird stuff, but the majority remain things like your light switches, your light bulbs, your power monitoring plugs, lights, RGB, RGBW, the RGB CT. Do them all set option 19, and just put it in there, and boom, it'll come up. And it doesn't flip your topics around anymore, so you can still use it that same way. And it's just simple. So Pat, thanks for the son off SV and to them because of it. I have a problem though. Every so often SV will go unavailable. So I know there was someone else asking about, and I don't know if there's anything I can show. Yeah, it's actually, yes, we can. I gotta turn this light down. It's so, I don't know if it's bright on me or what, but it is. There we go. That's not as bad. So LWT is actually, and I know some of the ones around from Tasmoto back in the 6.x version, they had those SDK issues with Wi-Fi, and it would constantly drop MQTT off and on, even though if you had this perfect signal with Wi-Fi. Well, that's kind of should be a thing of the past. I know there was someone else having an issue with Tasmoto recently, and I think it was due. It was 8.3. I think it was due to their probably something dealing with their Wi-Fi using. I'm probably going to screw up the name. It's like Euro or EERO or something like that. I don't know. I think is it Linksys does that one? But it's one of those mesh networks, and I don't know if it doesn't play nice with that one or not. But it was constantly dropping a lot of their signals, and I'm trying to find the IP address of this switch. Yeah, and so like what Federico's saying is the Tasmoto is the way you got to look at it. It's an app. I know there's a lot of Linux users here, but we're going to keep it simple and go Windows. Imagine you have Windows 10, and then you develop an app that's just installs in the desktop, and that's all Tasmoto is the app. All the drivers and everything else that ties into the underlying chipset and the CPU of the ESP. That's all handled by the Arduino core. So that's Eero. Okay, there you go, Jim. And so how I like it, the phonetics of things. And so if there's different Wi-Fi issues and stuff that really can't be fixed by the Tasmoto people themselves, because unless that gets changed in the Arduino core. Okay. Yeah, so to what automation is it triggering? I would probably make sure you may have to code around, and it's not a bad thing. Oh, just a notification. I guess it's maybe not a bad, but I know on some of the notifications, in whether you're doing it in Node-RED or in Home Assistant, I know a lot of times I would have stuff go from, hey, does it go from on to off or off to on? And that would be the condition or the trigger. And that way you wouldn't see those unavailables, I'm assuming, because that should be an unavailable state, which isn't on or off. So, um, but, and I'm seeing my part of my screen, but we ain't gonna mess with it. I'm screwing it up. So the way LWT works is, I don't know what this one's configured. I think this is just stock, like nothing. Oh, I do have MQTT in it. Yeah, okay, so I already got it configured. I'm ahead of myself. So the way LWT works is, let me zoom in this guy too, is you'll notice right when it reboots or it boots up, is you'll see this line here of like tele, which is a telemetry, and then your topic, and then LWT, and that's the last will and testament. And that's going to send over to MQTT, and it is a retained payload or packet or message, whatever you want to call it. So it's actually, I know it is a good feature and you want it retained. Well, when MQTT sees it as a last will and testament, there's a timeout, and it depends on, and I'm looking up to see if Home Assistant, IO, I don't know if it has the add-on. Oh, that's the configuration. I want to try to see if they have the configuration for the timeout. Do they allow that? That's probably just going to go, okay. I don't know if they allow for it or not. I'm not seeing the configuration stuff for it. This is the docs. How to use, there's a configure, here it is. Logins, anonymous. I don't see they allow, yeah, they do have, I guess you can put your own configuration, but there's a default timeout, and I just can't find it right now. Maybe someone else can. So you can extend the timeout, but like that's just going to put the problem with that timeout. And I'm trying to see what my timeout is. Now, I run a separate broker because I run just separate Docker containers, and I'm seeing what mine. I've never messed with the setting, I don't believe. Retry. I'm not seeing where the timeout is. Autosave interval. I know maybe it's a retry interval, but once that device falls off of the network, it can't communicate with things, then it will get automatically marked. Now, if the device just falls off the network, it doesn't have a chance to say goodbye, basically, to the MQTT. So what happens is it just goes ahead and the MQTT says, well, I haven't heard from you in a while, so, well, I guess you're dead. So you fell off the network. So it marks it as offline. And then in whether you did YAML or the auto discovery, it automatically will mark it as unavailable. And I believe the newer versions they changed it a while back in Home Assistant. It used to put unavailable like on the switch. Well, now it just kind of grays the switch out. So I would really, it would be a Band-Aid, because the problem is it is legitimately falling off of the network, or it's falling off of MQTT. So the problem with that is if you go to send an MQTT message to it at that time it disconnected, well then it's going to, that message may not get there. It may queue up and stay long enough and then finally get there. It may get there 5, 10, 20 seconds late. You just don't know. So I would really try to find the issue. I don't know if you saw, if you wrote what kind of Wi-Fi you're using. No, the telemetry is not going to help. The telemetry is just it sends this state every so often, and you, I mean, it's not. I don't believe it's going to help. You can try it if you want to. I mean, you can set the telemetry down to, I think it's 10 seconds or something. Um, I think it's in configure logging. I think you can set it down to 10 seconds. It defaults to 300, but you can set it down to 10. You can try that, but is the Wi-Fi signal bad out there? See, yeah, you're using Unify. You shouldn't have. Is it only on a 2.4 gigahertz SSID? I don't know if you have any special settings installed. Okay, well, I can tell you there's a couple pros. Pickle, probably one of them, and Steve-O, I don't know if he's in here. He's had a lot of different issues, but I think he got his stuff nailed out with Unify. You might try to hit him up with some of the different settings that they had to go in and change. For, like, I know I leave it off, that AI stuff, that AI scanning on Unify. I just want stuck to channels and don't jump channels. That may be some of the automated stuff that's in Unify you may need to cut off. So I would jump into Discord, and hopefully the Nightbot is in there, but if it's not, and it's not, dang it. I would jump into there it goes. Okay, Nightbot just got a delay. Nightbot was sleeping. It's definitely night. Hit up Steve-O and definitely Pickle. Look in the infrastructure and say, hey, what kind of share some of your settings on what you're doing with Unify. You're dropping some of their Tasmoto devices are falling off. So, what's up, Jaron? So we got off on a little tangent there, but that's fine. Always good about teaching how LWT, and I would recommend, because of set option 19 and automatically there, but I would recommend with any MQTT device, it's really a good idea to use the LWT because it's just going to tell you if that device is there or not. So I've seen a lot of people do it the manual way in YAML, and then special other sensors, they'll just leave LWT off, and I would definitely make sure you're using that. So this is the question I had for Frederico. He was very short on his description. Add support for Tuya and Sonoff MCU relays and lights. Now, only ones I really have is a Tuya dimmer, and that's just going to have that one PWM. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's other. I know some of the other devices have multiple relays, and maybe that's what this is. Maybe Frederico is probably frantically typing it out. Yeah, we kind of went over the little PSK stuff, but I'm gonna hit on it again. I'm gonna show another little alternative type thing that I have working. So, but it's not. Don't get crazy. It's not OTA. So, but it is solderless. So, no, the PSK is not fixed. So. So, I wanted to talk about, I know the non-US people are probably going to go take a coffee break or something or whatever. This is I'm sure everybody recognizes this little guy here, the wonderful Martin Jerry dimmer. Yep, Zappy, I do believe that you are correct. I don't want to say that. Say never, though. But yeah, that's encryption can be a beast. Now use GPI to map the relays since the Tuya are not there's no way to grab them. Now we have, okay. Do you use Tasmoto for everything or have... Actually, yes, I used to have, and I've got myself off of here. I didn't realize that. Sorry about that. I was playing around trying to fix the chat box earlier. So I used to have before I started with Home Assistant, I had SmartThing. Well, I had another system before that was just Z-Wave, and I had like 2 or 3 plugs, a thermostat, and I think one light bulb, or I forgot what it was. It was a dimmer or something, and I was paying probably what 40 something bucks for a dimmer or something like that, and that, so I didn't have many of them, and it was all Z-Wave, and it just seemed like it kept deteriorating as the months went on, and it got to be so bad. It was a daily occurrence. I got a notification that XYZ node couldn't be found. I needed to repair the Z-Wave network. It just got truly old, and so I thought, hey, well, I'll switch to must be that junk system. So a friend of mine said, well, you should try SmartThings. So I got on SmartThings. Got everything hooked up. I even got some Zigbee light bulbs. The Zigbee stuff worked great for the most part. Z-Wave, boom. Oh, look, now the chat's going to start working. And oh, no, it's going to be doubled up again. So, and then Z-Wave, it did the same exact thing. Kept falling apart. And so then I got fed up with it, and I started trying to switch away. And I'm going to turn the chat box off like I'm fed up with it. And so then I've actually found the Sonoff Basics, and then I accidentally found Home Assistant, and at that point, I got rid of anything Z-Wave and Zigbee. I do have a couple little things, but nothing really I rely on Zigbee. So I've had Unify for probably 3 years. I just have 2 access points here, and it's been solid. MQTT has been solid, and I just can't beat the price of some of this stuff. So, and yeah, I prefer the troubleshoot ability, if that's a word, with Wi-Fi. I mean, you can pull up ping and try to ping the device. If it's on the network, just keep pinging it. You'll see if it falls off. And luckily I haven't had any issues that Pat was having with MQTT dropping. So, so Z-Wave, and then I guess one thing I did leave out, I did finally fire up a SDR scanner, and I found that there was just a ton of interference in the 900 megahertz band at various times. So I really think it's due to interference issues that I have in the 900 megahertz band. But ironically, it does not impact the Y sensors that are on 900 as well. So, so that's pretty much the most of what I do. So on the Martin Jerry dimmer, and I know there's another one as well. There's this one here, which is the same thing inside. That's that Tesson dimmer. And it actually if you look at the model number, it says MJ SDO2, and the other one's SDO1. They're the same exact thing inside. There's another one. There's a couple of different models, and all they are is different faceplates on here. Yeah, the Y sensors are nuts. This one here, my wonderful door sensor on the bottle opener. My test one. But for the Martin Jerry ones, I know I had that fork previously of Tasmoto, and this was I did this way before there was templates and everything else. But see, you fixed it, Frederico. There is an issue if you use the Martin Jerry dimmer. Now this is the fork that I had and kind of maintained, and I kept having to bring it forward, and I had the stuff for the Martin Jerry dimmer, and then but you had to set up. You picked a module, no template, then you had to run this backlog, and it would set the thing up. Well, and I know I've seen some people, they've been going back on sale finally again, and if you flash one and you're going to use auto discovery, 8.3.1 that will not work with auto discovery. But if you go in and put on one of the latest development copies, of Tasmoto, auto discovery works. So yeah, I've actually asked them about if they're gonna do. I need to ask them. I need to ask them again. Um, Remind me. I'll see how much I can talk about some stuff with them. But and yeah, I did play with that Treat Life fan speed dimmer switch. Unfortunately, mine had a problem. I had to send it back. Maybe I'll get another one. So if you put the development version on it, and you don't need to go and put a template. I know everybody's used to putting templates on everything. Don't put a template. Just go in. It's built in. Configure module. Go down and go pick the PWM dimmer. And if I'm going, there it is, 73. And just hit save. And there's no template to put in. There's nothing to configure. There's no rules to do. It's done. And that's it. It's pretty much that simple to get it configured. And you can see now there's a couple different set options you can do, and you can even do your dimmer range. It supports a whole slew of different options. Like there's one set option that'll turn on the red LED whenever the light is off. So yeah, can you show the templates? I think I saw, Supla? Who is Supla? Well, let me hang on. Well, and it configures everything. The buttons will work for you. You can turn the dimming down. I don't have a light hooked to it because it's kind of a pain to show on camera anyway. But one of the features, of course, if you hold down the dimmer, it's going to slowly go up and down. Now, I get this constant question of like, hey, can we get rid of these lights in the different projects? Well, the relay that's in here is hardwired to this light and the blue light. So you cannot control this light or the blue light without actually turning off the relay. So those kind of three things tie together. So yeah, you don't need to do the bin or anything. Just stay on stock Tasmoto. And just remember 8.3.1 will not work with auto discovery. If you go to put it in auto discovery, you will not get the dimmer slider. So make sure you do put the development version on. And if you don't know how to do that, it's pretty simple. If you come to the Tasmota page and if you come down here to scroll down, it's right here. This update every 1 to 2 hours. And here's the bin file. And you can just take and copy this link address. And you can throw it in firmware upgrade. And you can copy and paste it in here and just hit start upgrade. And that's going to put the latest development copy. And remember, you hit start upgrade, it may do the 2-step flash. So don't mess with it. Hit start upgrade, come back in like 5 minutes. And it probably will be upgraded. You may have to hit the refresh page though. So, and I'm going to tell you there's one thing that I use my fork still for. So I'm going to show you that. And it's actually Frederico's fault. So, the soup, what are we talking about in here? If I'm saying your name right, Kuba or Kuba? I saw you said something that was Supla or something. These are the, this one right here. I'm not sure what that one is. I don't even want to try to pronounce it. I'll let y'all pronounce it. And then tell me how I did it wrong. I'm not sure what that one is. I'm not gonna. Sometimes you may want to. You may pick a template. I mean, not a template. Now you got me saying template. You may pick a open automation software. Oh, a strange DIY Theo found long a time ago. Okay, well, we'll just roll with that, right? And now the chat is going to start working again. Why? I've turned it off. It's become annoying. We'll turn that one off again. Yes, definitely happy Thursday. A vacation day tomorrow, but I'm supposed to be off tomorrow. And then I gotta work. I gotta work after this, and then get up early in the morning. But at least I'll be working on the road. So, but that's work. That's fine for me. Um, so I'm not sure what that one is. Y'all just may have to dig through the docs on that Supla one. Um, but those are the modules. Pick the module, PWM dimmer. It's done. If you want to, if where is it at? Features. There's a page here. PWM dimmer. It has a lot of the there's like brightness presets you can do. There's many more features you can do. So definitely read if you have some of the dimmers. If you go, there's a ton of stuff to read through. And there's also one thing that I did find. If you have an issue with and it depends on the bulbs. I've had issues with some bulbs and it's not being linear and I'm not getting the right dimming range. I'll go ahead and set LED table 0, and that will help me get a better range on my dimming. And I've had that issue with some Tuya dimmers as well. So there's a lot of information here. There's that set option 87. That is actually does that that red LED. Yeah, so that way you get that red LED, and that way you didn't have to do any rule, and you can get that red LED on. But if you don't want it, just go turn it off. So the one thing, so at that point, I have different automations and stuff, and so what I have liked to stay with my fork. I was trying to totally get rid of it. Is that I don't think I don't think that LED is exposed to Home Assistant. And while we're here, yes, AJ, I sure do. While we're here, let's do set option 19.1. Hang on to that one, Raspy, and we'll talk about that one. So set option 19, you should get this whole mess of retained messages, and that way you know it worked. And then if you jump straight over to Home Assistant and integrations, yeah, see, I don't think it is. You're right. You should have. I didn't name it, did I? I didn't name. Yeah, I didn't name it. I just left it as Tasmoto. So here it is here, and yeah, it's just gonna have the one switch with which I probably need to set. I know it just turned right back off. I probably need to do set option 59 maybe. You think so? I thought that was automatic. I thought, but maybe not. I know if you have the state that cuts back off and on, it will. Okay, well, that's interesting. Wonder why that's wonder why that's is turning off and turn on and off. That's weird. And it turns right. It's on. Was it going to stay on? Nope. So we're saying delete the device or refresh the page? That's weird. Is there a bug in this one? Or maybe I should update to the very late. I updated this the other day, Frederico. I don't know if that makes a difference. It looks like it's staying on now. And that's just a brightness setting. I wonder what it's doing on... Because it's definitely sending it over. Check LWT. Yeah, it's there. It doesn't always happen right when it's live, right? I tell you what, we will update this guy to the very latest. And this is another thing I do, and I'll try to answer the other question. Who was talking about? So the set option for, and that's what I'm watching for. I'm watching for the device to reboot. And it's probably just flashed minimal. And then I'll watch for it to do timed out again. And that's when I know it flashed the full version. What set option or switch mode to change to make my Shelly 1 change state with each toggle of the switch? Now, if I recall, the switch is inverted on... You have just like a regular like toggle switch. And you can see right here, now it should take a little bit longer on the request timed out. That should be flashing the full version. Well, let's make a liar out of me. It didn't take as long as I thought. But that should have just flashed the full version. And see, a lot of times you'll get this minimal. Don't mess with it. That's why I just walk away for a few minutes or do the ping thing and then come back and look, refresh, and boom, it's back. So we do have 8.3.16 again, but that should be the latest commit on there. I want to say it was like switch mode 2 or something like that. It depends on the switch. If you have a momentary switch, or if you have a if I can find the switch modes. I would take a look at the mess around with the switch modes, Raspy, and because it depends on the switch you have. Like if you have just like a momentary, then there's like the switch mode 3. Now, if you have an inverted, which I think this one is inverted because it's the way the switch input is on the Shelly 1, you may have to do switch mode 4, but that's just for a momentary. But you may be looking at doing switch mode 2 or 1. So it just depends on, it probably either will work because it's just trying to change states. So you can try the switch mode 1 or switch mode 2. Switch mode 0, that's just going to be, I think when it's changed one way. I think you got to do switch mode 1 or 2. I can't remember. It's been a while since I did a Shelly with a regular switch. So there's not that couple of them to try and just see how it works. And you don't have to reboot the switch or anything. So we're going to give this a try again. Set option 19 space 1. And see, nothing ever goes perfect. Don't think the guys that do all the video editing, their stuff just goes perfect all the time. It surely does not. So, okay, we got retained. And we'll go back to configuration and PWM dimmer. Now let's see if I just turn it off. Okay, so it turns on. Let's turn it on. Okay. It's working now. Whatever. But I'll take it. I will take it. So that's typically what that's supposed to happen, is that you just add it in and you're done and it just works. And you can see in the thing up above, it's just working. So the Tasmoto status that will update, I know that's the all the telemetry stuff, and that will update. I think you can force it with a state command, but that's going to send every so often. Yeah, there it is. I think that's the Wi-Fi probably, and they do give you a lot of different information. And I have to scroll down probably, or my window's not big enough. Yeah, that's not a problem, Federico. So we'll just add it and put it back. So yeah, my window's not big enough. I got it too zoomed. But it give you a lot of information on Tasmoto itself. And I know you're probably like, wait, we're changing his tune. Well, it's actually, it just works that good now. And I do appreciate Federico putting all his time and frustration and work into doing the set option 19. So, and there is, and if I remember correctly, and help me out here, Federico, you can come in here, and they did make it where in the configuration, you can come in here into devices and you can click the device and then you can delete it. And that does take the retained messages out of MQTT for that device, if I remember correctly. So, in that case, if you had a plug or something that totally died or happened to get reset by the wonderful power going off and on, yes, we're going to get to the ESP32 version, Jay. So if you have something that was set option 19 and you can't get back to take it back out with set option 19 space 0, you can just go in here and hit delete. And it'll remove those retained messages from the MQTT broker. And I think if I did this and then rebooted the switch, it would put the retained messages right back. So pretty cool. I know it's something that we've been asking for, because that was one of the things I did not like about that stuff would get orphaned in as auto discovered devices. So what do I use the fork for still? What I use it for is, which is all Federico's fault, is the and they did what are we fixing? They did change that set option 65 to 7 toggles. It could still happen, but it's less likely to happen. So keep trying the different switch modes, Raspy. I would just keep going through the switch modes. Try switch mode 0, 1, and 2. So that it's got to be one of those 4. I'm sometimes too lazy to look them up, and I would just try them. There is a little way you can try with a rule, but just try it with the switch mode. So where I use the fork for is the MultiPress options. And the way this thing is there's actually, now there's not a, people ask, is this a 4th button? This little thing right here, that's not a 4th button. It is a button, but it's directly tied to the reset line on, without modifying the code, you can't change the number of resets without modifying the code. So this is actually tied to the actual reset line of the ESP chip. It's just going to reboot the ESP chip. I guess if you probably mashed it 7 times if you had set option 65 as default, mashed it 7 times, it would probably reset this switch. Well, there's 3 buttons. There's the up, down, and on. Well, as we know with MultiPress, we can do 6 options or 6 actions per button, so we can get 18 different actions out of this dimmer, which is kind of cool because in my video that I did of the iFan 03 that was controlled with two of these in a kind of a three-way mode, along with I have some downlights. I have the downlights as just single press right now. But there's a lot of times where I like to just turn, I got 6 downlights in that room. It's in the living room. I like to just turn on the back 2 downlights at like 30%. Well, what I've done is now I can do like a double press up or a triple press down. Now, I didn't get too crazy with the ones because I didn't want to leave a book by the switch because I'm never going to remember them all with 18 different options. But now when I hit like triple press up, that's going to automatically set my 2 back down lights at like 30% on cool white. Instead of having to, you pull out the phone or use assistant or whatever, this gives me that option and it's straight from the wall and I can just set those things real quick. So, so what I do, the only problem with that is you cannot use PWM dimmer for the multi-press buttons. So that's where I use the fork. So let me put my firmware on here and I'll show you how to set that up real quick. So I know it's kind of I use both. In some cases, I just use PWM dimmer, but in some other areas, I use my fork for it. So, so I'm putting on the light version. Now, you don't have to, I know we talked about putting minimal. With, I think it's 8.2 or maybe it was 8.1. They support putting those GZ, the gzip files, and you can, so I will actually write out the light version. The light version is kind of safer to do because it still has the hotspot and a lot of the features. So I'll put the light version on the switch first in the middle, and I should put it on the screen for you guys. So I'll put the GZ version. I have a MultiPress. I'm gonna catch up to the questions. So I'm just trying. I've already stalled long enough, but still roll the questions. But I'm gonna try to keep them. So let me put on my firmware right quick. So the bulbs I have, and that's the Zimmy. I had just some Zimmy Smart downlights in there. And firmware and start upgrade. So while that flashes, MultiPress stitch bulb ran Tuya convert 6 months. They've been running great on 6.4.1. Now, if that, I would recommend if you're using that old of a version, I know it was like around 6.6 or 6.4, that had the older version of Tuya convert that did not clear the flash properly. So if you're trying to bring some switches or bulbs or whatever that were on an older version of that were done with Tuya convert, I would highly recommend when you go into them and do a reset 5. Now that, keep in mind, that's going to totally reset everything except it's going to erase the flash, set all the configuration, and it's going to erase everything except for the Wi-Fi. But I highly recommend it if you did use an older version of Tuya convert. And then once you get in, it's going to be defaulted. So, your template's going to be gone. Whatever rules you had are gone. Your set options are gone. But I would go through the documentation. Right on the documentation, there is, on Tasmoto.com, there's an upgrading. And if you scroll down, and side note, if it ain't broke, leave it on the old version. Unless you really just OCD like me and want to get to the new version and you don't mind the risk, go ahead, update it. But they do have, I'm keep scrolling, there's a migration path section. it's telling you if like, hey, if you were before 6.1, put 6.1 on it. And these are links to the firmware, by the way. And then put 7.2 on it, then put 8.1 on it, then put the current release on it. And then what I would do once you get current release on it, I would do reset 5 again. And that's going to set everything to defaults, and then I would set things up. So a good rule of thumb, Leonardo, is if you use Tuya Convert that had the menu where you just picked ESP32 or Tasmoto, like that 1 or 2 option, you're safe. They did fix that exploit stub where it did erase the flash correctly. So, and I've done this exact procedure, what I just told you, on a bunch of Zemismart downlights at another house that had 6.4 or 6.5 on them. And that's the first thing I did. I did reset 5, and I went through the migration path, and then I did a reset 5 once I got up to 8.3.1. And they worked fine after that. And then we were able to use templates, able to use all the different new features along with all the auto discovery stuff. So it's worth the thing, but just keep in mind that there always with upgrades there is a risk of boot looping something or whatever. So so back to this guy up here. Why do I still use my fork? Well, go to configuration, and this one has a different, you'll see the MJ SD01 dimmer. Again, you don't need a template. It's just like putting a we don't use templates for Sonoff Basics. They're just in there. You just pick them. That was before that templates where the really Tuya thing blew up. So this is where I use you do have to go put the rules in for there. But the rules, I'm going to put them in here, but I'm going to change them. And I'll put the link. This is off of my little fork thing. So, and then once you do have the rules in there, and you can see it does work, the power on and off, and then you can change the dimming up and down. It just works a little differently, and if you're familiar with using the fork, it's the same way, where we did have the long press to jump to 100, and then we had the short press to jump to like 20%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I actually talked about that in one of the Tuya dimmer setup. You don't need the template for a Tuya dimmer. The only time you would really need it is there's 2 different UART pins, and I talk about it in that Tuya dimmer setup video. Is I just pick Tuya dimmer in the Tuya MCU in the module, and then if you start getting those heartbeat packets, then you know it's good, and then go through your setup. If you don't, you use GPIO 13 and 15, and then you should get those heartbeat packets. And I do talk about those pins, and go look in my videos and look for that Tuya MCU dimmer setup. The only thing I would add to it, if you get, like I say, you got that dimmer range, if you're getting a weird linearity, I guess that's a real word, is I turn off LED table. Otherwise, it doesn't get a linear scale on some bulbs. So I turn it off. So what I'm going to do on here is, in another good thing about the newer versions is, I know it's sometimes a bad feature, is that set option 65. And I know some of you may not be familiar with set option 65. So set option 65. That's the fast power. It's defaulted to 0, which is on. It's backwards. And what this is it's a good thing for the most part. Now, I turn it off, which is set it to 1 once I put the device in production. But I just have storms and sometimes power stuff and transformers blow up, and then I get power pulses, and then I get all my devices reset. So I turn that to 1, but what this allows you to do, if you have a device that just gets hung up and dies on you, you can just, as we were talking about in Discord, just unplug it and plug it, just get crazy with it like a rabbit. And then it will not factory default, but it will default Tasmoto. That way you can have your device again. It's a really good feature. It's one of those love-hate features. So back to the dimmer for the MultiPress is what I do is I will go ahead and make me a template. I know you're probably just like, well, you just said don't make a template. Well, I do make me a template. Now, this dimmer, if you'll notice, switch mode 1.6. 6 as this one's backwards. It's going to be an inverted button. If you did set this to switch button 1 after 40 seconds of a reboot, it's going to factory default Tasmoto because it thinks you held the button down for 40 seconds. Don't ask me how I know. So we're going to set this to button 1 inverted, which is I. Not IN, that would be inverted non-pull-up. We still want to use the pull-up resistor. So button 1, and then we're going to do button 2, and then button 3. And we'll leave PWM, you'll leave the LED. And I know someone else had the question of, hey, can we expose this LED? Well, if you did use this fork, you could control this LED using LED power commands. Or if you really wanted to, you could probably, it should work, I would think, is expose it as relay 2. And you should be able to control that red LED as well. Oh yeah, you could use that set option as well. So let the guy reboot. And the cool part is you'll notice the buttons aren't going to do anything. Well, they are actually going to do. But is it set option 73, Frederico? It's been a while since I've done it. Oh, look, I get people with this all the time. You made a template, but you didn't go activate it. The way you can find out without having to go look at that screen, just type module, and you'll see it's still set at module 72. Module 0 is the same thing. Oh, I didn't save it. Oh, no, I did put it. I left it as generic, I think. You can see how common it is, and I did it. We'll do MJ dim button. That way I'll see it different up here. Bolt, is the light version enough? No, I don't think Auto Discovery isn't in the light version, Frederico, I think. I would have to go back and look. Let's see. So now, yeah. So now you can see they get that action single. And now we could do a rule because now there's that button 1, there's the double. And then here's button 2, there's the single. And then here's button 3 as the single. So you can already see that you can do a say, I think rule 3 is nothing's in there. Yeah, rule 3 on button 3, state, and this is kind of what I showed in one of the MultiPress videos. Move this out the way so you can see the values, what they are. Is I just did, and I know I did it quickly, all I did was say on button 3, any state, do a MQTT publish to test and the value of what the button is. And so now when I do button 3, it's going to do an MQTT of 10 for single, and then 11, and then the 12. It should do 12 if I did it right. And this should, you can already see that, hey, I could, what we could do is automatically say on, I want to do that triple press, and I can actually have it go through and do an MQTT message to say, kick out a custom MQTT topic to do an automation that would set 2 or 3 lights on and set 20% dimming using an automation or using Node Red or whatever. So it really just, it totally expands stuff because you've got 3 buttons, and you could actually put it back like it was, but you need to change these. Because the original rule that's on here is switch 3. Well, we don't have switches anymore. So it's rule 3, and single press is 10. So that's going to do dimmer plus. I'm sorry, not rule 3. Button 3. I'll see if y'all are watching. And this puts it back to where it was going to work. Button 2, that's the down. That's going to do, should be 10 for single press. And of course, you can change these however you want. Like we could do switch button I think it was button 3. Was it? No, it was button 2. And I think that's the long press. You can still set it up for long press, but I'll show you. We can do, let's do 11. And that's going to set it to 20. And then we'll do button 3 state 11, do dimmer 100. And that should do, I'll turn that rule 3 off. And that should put us back where a single press should turn it on, if I did it right. Oh, no, you need another rule. On, because we disabled them. Button 1 state equals 10, do power toggle end on. That should do us. Yeah, okay. So now just single press still does the power of the dimmer, and then you can do the singles and they'll automatically, now if I did a double press and it jumped, and you can do the double press instead of long press. But of course you could do triple presses to do whatever. So this is where I only use my fork is for the multi-press. So I know I probably missed a bunch of questions. Auto discovery. You know if it's in there, Federico? Auto discovery on the light version? I know if you go to releases, and also look, there's that migration path in here on GitHub, by the way. I think if you go down, yeah, complete list, and I don't know, that's probably, let's see, use Home Assistant. No, if I'm looking at this correctly, The use Home Assistant auto discovery is not going to be in the light version of Tasmoto. You will need the regular full Tasmoto bin file. So, are you saying yes that I'm correct, or there's no which way is that, Frederico? The state, it goes state 10. And look at my little MultiPress video, but it's 10 for single, and then it goes 10, 11, 12, 13, and just goes on all up to penta press. And then you still have your short press, short press, which is single, and then you get your long press, I think is state 3. So, when did the previous method become deprecated? Yeah, Daniel, if you're doing if you're updating if you get a buffer miscompare and you're pushing the bin file separately yourself, the buffer miscompare means that there's not enough room. And what that means is you can go find out. It's really simple. Go to the device, go to information, and look right here, free program space. This one has 536 kilobytes. If I tried to send over a 580 kilobyte file, of course, it's just not going to fit. It's going to tell me buffer miscompare. And so you'll need to, and thanks, Frederico, for the states. So you'll need to either flash light to it or minimal if you're doing it manual. And then it will give you enough space to put on the full bin. But I would just let Tasmoto do it and just do the OTA if you can. Now, of course, I know some people block the internet and VLAN and everything on their Tasmoto devices, and you need to push your bins over manually, so I do understand that. So, but that's what that buffer miscompare means, that because it has to kind of flash, what it does is think of it like partitions. It will flash it in the free space, and then it reboots and just flips to the other. And if there's not enough room to flash that other bin, then of course it can't do it. Now you can flash with the later versions, you can flash the gzip versions, you can just push those right over. And if there are enough room. So you may have, like I know people are trying to flash those GoSun dimmers, and don't buy those, by the way. They're horrible. And you have to do that scripting. If you do put the light version of the gzip, and then you can send over the scripting version of the gzip, and it will fit. So, and what I mean by the gzip versions, they're already zipped up for you. If you look on the Hackbox, they'll have these. You'll see this one's 417K versus the regular bin is 591. But you have to have a later, I want to say it was 8.1 or 8.2. I don't remember directly offhand when they started allowing the gzip versions to be sent over. And you can just send those straight over. Don't unzip them. Just go to the zip where you say push bin, you pick the bin and browse to it and send the gzip one over. So, and if you still don't have enough room, send over the light bin GZ and then send over the one you need. 8.2. Okay. So what other questions? Video on phone detection via Bluetooth. Do I have to what were they talking about? Manual configure. I know there was a question from, I was way back, Jaren was asking something, I believe. The bulbs. Yeah, I was using those Zimmy Smart downlights. I'm thinking they still sell them. Zimmy Smart downlight. Yeah, there's 15 of them left. Cool, they went up on price. Or is that the bigger ones? Oh, that's the 6 inches. They used to have a 4-inch. I guess it's 5.5 inch now and a 3.5. One thing they did change on the newer versions of these are they're now 5-channeled instead of just being RGB cool with cool white. They also are have the 5th channel for warm white as well. So you can get them from AliExpress, and I have ordered them that way. They're a little cheaper on AliExpress. Zimmy Smart Downlight. I haven't looked over here in a while. I probably just searched all of AliExpress, and I thought I was going to search the store. And I remember that's the AU. There's tons of different ones on here now. See, here's the 6-inch for $28. So they're definitely going to be, if that's picking it correctly. I know that you have to hit add to cart and pick the different. Yeah, if you ship it there, it's $40. So can we have a Z to T bin file? Actually, that's talking about the Zigbee Tasmoto. Is that what you're asking about? Because here's some pre-compiled binaries if you want them. I think Blackadder does these. There's a Zigbee version. If you have one of the Zigbee, there's the bin and the GZ right there on GitHub. And there's the scripting as well. So there's even a platinum if you want to really get a massive guy, but there they are. So there's a link to them. And you cannot copy the link and put it into the OTA because GitHub, I think, forces HTTPS. So you will need to, don't right click these. GitHub's going to give you a bin file with an HTML page. Don't do that. You need to go in and click on it. And I know that my page is zoomed, and actually click left click the download button. And Tasmoto is always pronounced Tasmoto. And I changed it. So if you hit down, make sure you hit download, and that way you'll get the bin file. So what's the Tasmoto everywhere? I think it was Blackadder made that. Where's my folder when I can show it? Is it this one? Yep. I gotta pull up my page again. See, it's even showed correctly on there. There's Tasmoto everywhere. Tasmoto on all the things. So, and that's just the way that I've just pronounced it probably from the beginning, and everybody's kind of always razzed me on it. And it's probably due to I was around a lot of Motorola stuff, and we called them motos all the time, and it's just probably stuck with me. Always called it, just from calling it that, and just probably just Southern drawl, maybe, I guess. I don't know. It just sounds the same for me to pronounce. So I know Jay After Dark, and I'm looking for my mother drink. I know I made 2 of them because I ran out of one already. Hold on 1 second. All right. Yeah, see, I think that Theo spelled it wrong, but I think it actually, I'm trying to remember what it stood for. He maybe still has it on the page. And if you have any questions on the Martin Jerry stuff, I know I kind of went crazy along with the button thing, but I just want to show you something really neat that you can get all those actions out of that one dimmer. It's still nuts for that Martin Jerry dimmer. And I know they're supposed to come out with some newer three-way switches and possibly the dimmer. And I did find out there are supposed to be ESP8266 based. Now we're probably going to have patched firmware, but it leads to this. Hopefully they will still use the TYWE3S. And let me turn the light on without calling on the voice assistants. So this is, and this applies to everybody that has this module. This just happens to be the, I feel like I'm sunk down in the page. I don't know why. Maybe it's a chair. So these are that Martin Jerry switch, not the dimmer. And this just goes, gotta see how it is. It's way over on the desk. So this one actually just gets screwed in like this. And when you pop this guy open, there's no glue, there's no screws when you pop this switch open. Now there are these 4 little Phillips screws to take the board out. But the cool part about the Martin Jerry dimmer and the Martin Jerry switch is actually they left these via holes for the RXTX GPIO 0, and then out of the plug you can get ground and 3.3 volts, and you can actually flash this guy with USB flasher with just some little breadboard jumpers or some DuPont jumpers, and you don't have to. I did a video way back on it when Tuya Convert was blocked the first time, and you can flash this without doing any soldering, which is kind of cool. So, because actually I've flashed this multiple times, and you can tell I didn't jack up the soldering or anything on the Tuya module. So, but another way to do it is, and we were talking about this on Discord the other day, and I just happened to search on Thingiverse, and I've tried one of these before. I tried to print this one before and do the pogo pins, and no hate on whoever developed it. That's fine. Hey, we appreciate you sharing stuff, but I didn't have a whole lot of luck with it. I don't know if it's something got in the way of it, and I spent several hours messing with it. Well, I can tell you that there's a little different one now. And it was very promising, and I did print it out and did try it, and you can see it has a little better design because it has a back to the pogo pins where they go, and you just hook up some little test clips to it, hook it to your USB flasher, hold it down on the Tuya module, and that's it. And you can flash most of those Tuya modules, and that way you don't have to worry about that PSK issue or whatever. You can make backups, do what you want to do with it. It's really hard to brick a ESP8266 unless you physically like brick it by putting 5 volts on it or 12 volts on it, and that makes the magic smoke come out. But they're really hard to brick software wise. And what I did, now I went through, let me see if I can find they didn't have many left. Now I'm sure that you can find all the pogo pins you want off of like AliExpress or something like that. And these work. I thought these were kind of pricey for these pogo pins, but I needed to find I think they were like 30. Let's see. Here's the pogo pins I used. I want to say they were, yeah, it was like 25 millimeters long. And otherwise, because unless you guys want to modify this and make it bigger or smaller or whatever, I just went with the size that it was. So it for the most part, it does work. And I do have it here. And so this is the RX TX lines, the GPIO 0, there's ground, and this other pin by itself is VCC, which is 3.3 volts. And well, how do I know that? If you go Google for that module, you'll find the picture of it. And I got the window in the way. And this is backwards, it's flipped. So let me put this up here too. If I can drag this over. Or if we get another picture of one. It's flipped, where TX is on actually TX and RX are on the top. So because the way that this picture is right here is showing, they got too many scroll bars. This picture is showing TX and RX on the other side. They're looking, looking from the back of the chip, and you just don't see the back because it's soldered down. So don't get it backwards. But you can find a lot of other pictures. Like this is actually my picture that was on some other website. But you can actually see when it's this direction, it's TX and RX are on the right. And then there's GPIO 0, ground, and 3.3 volts on the other side. So that's how that one's done. And I'll show you, it does work. And of course, because I'm doing this probably live, it's not going to work right off the bat. And all I have, this conglomerate of wires, as you can see, I have it attached to those pogo pins. And then I have it hooked to just a USB FTDI CH30G. And let's see if we can do this with multiple hands, and I'll show you this does work. Now you do have to hold it unless you get someone else to hold it or something just to weight it down. Those pogo pins don't have much spring to them. And you may have to mess around with the orientation because you do have to get it correct. So let me see if I can do this with the mic in the way and all this, and then hit enter. So give me 1 second. I'll line this thing up and put it on so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I know the audio is low because my mic is not over here. We'll move the mic. And does deleting a rule? Yeah, I'll get the link for the Thingiverse. By using rule 1, for example. Yeah, if you do rule 1 quote, which is the double quotes, then that will delete it. Or if you just put anything else in it, it will delete it. Now, also you can turn a rule off by just turn rule 1, then the rule number, and then 0. That will turn it off. And it's kind of hard to see, but I'll pick it up after I try to get this. Once we get this. So let's see if this does. And find my USB. I need that sewing pedal USB relay again, right? And let's see if I get it first shot. No, I don't. I don't get it first shot. And that's fine. And that is one of the issues with the orientation. And sometimes you may get frustrated. And like I did on one of them, I just went ahead and soldered it. Yep, so there it goes. So it's not that bad to do. I just made sure I found that GPIO 0 was not, it's the pin doesn't line up exactly. So but and I'll pick it up and show you. And yeah, of course you would have to, hold, I can tell you, yours may not be too bad, but if you run Tasmotizer on it and do flash and everything, it should work. And but just having to hold your finger there, it gets kind of tiring. So maybe if you had some, like a big book or something, some other weight or a clamp or something you could put on the desk, like one of those hardware clamps, like holding some wood together, that would probably work well. And then you could do a backup and you could do a flash, but it's a no solder solution for this Tuya module. So I'm gonna unplug it, and so I don't short anything out with those pins. So do keep that in mind. And once you do move it around, I would unplug it, because that pin, you could end up putting voltage hot on some other pin, which may not be a good idea. But basically all I'm doing, I'm gonna try to get this on the camera, is you can see the pogo pins. I'm lining it up with the first one, and then once you push it down, it lines itself up, and you should be able to see, if I would zoom the camera, but I don't have another hand, and you can see it does touch all those pins. And then on the other side, you can kind of see how it wraps around the Tuya module, and that gives the positive on this side. So, but you can see it does work. It actually is kind of cool to be able to flash, because these little Tuya modules are in a lot of different switches and stuff. But of course, it has to be a switch that you can open. Like a lot of the plugs you can't, because they've glued them together, and same thing with the light bulbs. And I will send that link to it for now. Right? So that's the new thing they're gonna do for us, right? They're gonna say, oh, well, y'all flashing those things easy. We're just gonna go ahead and we're going to change the Tuya modules on you. That way you can't use the little jig. So it is a cool little jig, and those are the pogo pins. And if you're not familiar with a pogo pin is, they're used like on, if you're one of the older, did some original Xbox mod chips, they actually had these pogo pins, and all it is just a spring-loaded. You can see it's just a spring-loaded pin, and it'll keep tension on it. And that's those little test clips. I think they're just called them test probes or something like that. I've had them, and they just have a little hook on them. Let's see if I can show you one of those if you want to. They just have a. All it does is there's a little hook that kind of it almost looks like a cork on like a cork for a fishing bobber, and then you just put it around the little post. I know I'm not at the right focus, but it just hooks on the post, and just make sure it's not touching the other one. And then I do the same thing on the other side. I hook them to the USB flasher. So what time? How are we looking on time? Because I want to get to the last part and still get to. We're right at an hour, so we're still good. If everybody else is good. Man, no questions on the jig, man. I'm surprised. And I'm gonna call him out. I know Jaron, if he's still here, he was asking about that jig and trying to get it to work right. And so I know we were talking about that back and forth, and so I went ahead and printed it and got that thing working. So, J After Dark brought that up for the ESP32. The ESP32. Let's see if we can get a better zoom. And no, I just don't have ESP32s hanging around. I actually pulled those out the drawer. So one of them is there's not. This is ESP32. This one is not ESP32. This is looks like a little short Node MCU. Do I have a regular Node MCU? Yeah, I do. So this is ESP8285, this guy here, in a Node MCU format. It is breadboard friendly. Do I have a breadboard? Yeah, I have one over here. And this is the regular Node MCU that we've all know and everything. And it's ESP8266, Flash Tasmoto, whatever you want on it, ESP Home, whatever. So if you wanted ESP32, you would probably have to go with another firmware, custom firmware or ESP Home. Now the ESP32, I know not everybody knows about the ESP32s. And there's several different, just like the ESP8266, there's several different variants. And that's what I wanted to show you here. There's some that are not breadboard friendly. Some of them are. Of course, there's some that are even like this that are in the Wemos kind of, if you want to call it, format. But they have dual rows of pins. And if you haven't seen what the ESP32 is, it's think of it as the big brother of the ESP8266. Don't let the different number throw you off. It's actually a better chip in most ways because there's a ton of different GPIO pins. Another thing is the LED drivers are all hardware PWMs. They're not software, so you get a better look for LEDs. And I know a lot of you may follow Quinled. He uses a lot of the ESP32s for his projects due to them being a hardware LED driver. There's also Bluetooth, and there was a Bluetooth question. Bluetooth built into this guy here. I've seen people use these for presence detection. And there's capacitive buttons. There's all kinds of stuff that you can use on the ESP32. They also have, and I'll link this here, this random nerd tutorials that we all are not. Yeah, the encrypted BIOS features, but we don't want encrypted BIOS. Some of the other, you'll see there's a ton of additional GPIO pins other than just like the typical, I don't know, 7 or 8-ish, maybe more you can yank out of the ESP8266 before you really run out. There's capacitive touch that you can use, just like I've even seen people hooking these directly up just to a piece of metal to use like a touch lamp. Using ESP32, or just solder them to aluminum or attach them to aluminum. There's all kind of stuff. The other big thing is there was only one AO pin on the 8266. That was that analog to digital converter. You can see there's a ton of them now on the ESP32. It has a higher resolution on that. There's digital analog converters. There's PWM that's better. There's all kinds of stuff that is just better on the ESP32. Not to mention, I think it's dual core. It even will connect to a higher handshake rate on Wi-Fi. They're still 2.4 gigahertz, but they will use 40 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz. Not that you really need that high bandwidth. There's all kind of stuff. The ESP32 is a cool chip. So, what that leads us to is, after a long rant of that, is if we can go to the GitHub of regular Tasmoto, but change the branch to firmware. And scroll down and you can go to firmware, go to Tasmoto 32, and you can see, and I'll leave the link here, you can see they have pre-compiled binaries of the Tasmoto 32 for you. Now, I would consider this like alpha firmware. Not everything works. But if you do mess up something, you know there's USB ports on the ESP32, and you just flash it again and go. There's this ESP32 needed files. There's the little README. It tells you how to flash it using ESP Tool. You will need to install, like I say, this is not just one of those things you can just throw on, but you use ESP Tool Pi, and it's pretty simple to do. So now the variants, you can use whatever variants you want. I mean, this is just some I had. This one has the little antenna connector on it, and so like if you're trying to put an antenna outside of something, but there's all kind of different ones, and the only really difference you see on these are the pins. And I'll zoom down to one of these if you haven't seen an ESP32, and I'm trying to hold that little camera steady. Is you'll notice one difference. Is if you look on, let me show you, let me see this guy here. I'll show you a little comparison. Is you remember how they always talk about those D pins? Those D0, D1, I hate those D numbers. You can never remember what GPIO pin they are. Well, ESP32 did away with that. So they do talk about G, that actually is GPIO. So you'll see this is 23, 22, 21. These are all the GPIO pins. So that's GPIO 0 there. Same thing. You flip it over on the other side. Look at all these GPIO pins that you can get to on these particular boards. And it really depends. There's a lot of different little dev modules of the ESP32. And it's really great for doing those custom projects for like loading sensors and whatever, and buttons and LEDs on, you know, like we would do with the ESP Home and stuff, to use a ESP32. And of course you can get those all on, I mean, there's tons of different ones on AliExpress and Amazon. They're gonna be a little more expensive on Amazon. They're not too bad. But, you know, you're looking at, as of now, of course, price subject to change. You know, they're $15 for a pack of 2. These are the ESP32S. I know that's a different model. Someone was just talking about that one. And there's these. This is just one for $11. Of course, you can find them cheaper on AliExpress. So. It just depends on if you want to wait on them or not, or where you're at to buy your ESP32 stuff. So, yeah. So what is the S2? I thought, was that like a different type of ESP32 S2? Is it a totally different SDK and everything though? So that one's a single core. Heltec built, okay, the built-on display. They got looks like that's for doing like AES, I'm assuming, for HTTPS stuff. Yes, I can see it's kind of stripped down, but it's probably, I would assume they're trying to more kind of replace the ESP8266, and I know where this is, you're thinking, they're kind of leading to is, hey, let's put this on all the Tuya, get a hold of this thing and just go ahead and lock down the chips and encrypt it so we can't manually flash them. That's kind of where my mind was going to already. So, but hey, sometimes things go full circle. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Kind of in between the 8266 and the 32. So, but to flash, let me close all these tabs. I done got rid of my other tab. To get to, I should just go get my other link. Firmware, Tasmoto 32, and then in here, and we will just hook up one of these guys real quick. Like, we'll just hook up this. Let's try and hook up this one. I've never plugged this one in. I don't think I have. And of course, it didn't want to stay put. It wants to roll over because the USB cable. There we go. So we should be able to ESP tool Pi flash ID. Yep. And so there's ESP32. Oh, he did Andre. That's it, Andreas. Yep. The guy with the Swiss accent on the S2. I had to check that one out. I don't have any of those. Maybe I should probably order some. And you always play with the fun stuff. I think I copied this to. Let me see if I can find this again. Yeah. Okay. In this folder. Yep, here we are. So I should be able to paste this in, and I'm gonna change, what was that COM port? I think you can do it as auto, but I'll just leave it. It was COM 5, so same as their one. And I'm just gonna use all their stuff they were doing and flash it on over. If I hit enter right, and it will flash it straight over to that ESP32. Let's do Swiss accent. Look at that. Other people were Googling that. Guy with Swiss accent. I'm not going to butcher the name. And then he's going to get mad at me. So I'll just copy and paste it. Y'all can say his name and I'll blame it on y'all. So, yeah, there's his right there. Well, let me click that one. So, but there's that. I'll have to go check that one out. So we should be, we're flashed up, and on the ESP32 flash is pretty quick because they have the baud rate turned up on it. And let me go put it on my Wi-Fi. I did not make me a throwaway SID. I should have. I'm using Termite to put my Wi-Fi. Is it just password 1? I think it is. I think so. And I'm waiting for the IP address. If I put the password in right. Yep. Okay. 10.1.182. And so, boom, you can see, we don't need to see the ESP chip anymore, right? And we'll zoom this guy in. And you'll notice a stark difference is for the ESP32. See that there's the flash size a little larger. There's more free program space and there's more free memory on the ESP32. And there's some other cool stuff as well. Is the difference when you go into configuration and configure module, and you'll notice that you have all these GPIO pins now versus that little short list that you had like on the 8266. And they've changed stuff. The way this is laid out is because the list was going to be too big, I'm assuming, and I think they're trying to expand the number of buttons and the relays and switches. If Federico may correct me on that. But when you pick it, I think it's cool, is so like you can say, like you're doing like say switch, and it pops out to the side, and that's the number. And so if you want to do that when it's switch 1 and then that's switch 5. And so same thing, you want to do PWM. Well, I want PWM, for doing like RGB, and you would just go ahead and pick them that way. And say the button that's I, inverted, non-pull up, inverted, non-pull up. The T, is that the capacitive one? I think there's the capacitive one. I think is that the TC? So there's the counters, the buzzers, there's the, so yeah, that's the capacitive touch ones. And now I don't know if everything is working in here yet. I did play with a few things on another ESP32, and I did notice one thing. You pick the console, and you can see it has a little delay on the console, but it does work, and I didn't have any issues with it. And I have this guy here. Let me pop this one out. Push all these junk out the way, and we'll zoom out a little bit so you don't see my conglomerate of mess. I don't know if BK has made it here, but he said he'd watch later. But I know it looks like a horrible mess, but this is ESP32 as well. Just something I was playing with last night. And all this is I'm just trying to fix the focus on it. This is the HTU21 and the SHT3031, I think it is. That's they're I2C temperature and humidity modules. And then I just threw in a little common cathode LED that's analog RGB, and just tied them in as PWM to play with. So, and just threw it on the breadboard messing with. And you can see this one is not breadboard friendly because there's no pins available on this side. You would have to, try to split this, or you would have to wire underneath it. So that's 181. But you can see it does work. And I2C does work. Let me pull this up here so y'all can see it. And I'll turn this light off so you can get a better idea. But it does work for I2C. And I just tried, that was just some I2Cs I had. And you can just see I set it up as PWM 1, 2, and 3. And this is the clock and data on I2C. And it does work. It sends over the temperature, humidity, dew point, etc. You still got the sliders that you can change the color. You should change the color if I didn't mess up the yeah. And I think this is the intensity or something like that. And then there's the brightness. And I'm gonna blow out the camera so you can be able to see it. But pretty cool that we have the ESP32 of Tasmoto in the works. I I would probably say it's somewhat right because I have a lot of lights on in here. The AC is not set at 77, but due to my laptop running full bore with the fans and the lights and stuff, I would not be surprised if it's 77 right here. So, and they're pretty close within each other. So, um, that's about it. If you don't know what the I squared C, I've got kind of an addiction to I squared I squared C, which is I've got several different different little sensors and stuff, and ESP Home supports a lot of them. Tasmoto supports a lot of them. These are just different ones that I've picked out, and there's some of them are that I've ordered off of AliExpress, and so some of them are only a few dollars, and I'll just go ahead and order them. But maybe they're not all supported, but I've always just, hey, go pick up some I squared C and play with them, and then possibly build like a little multi sensor or something with them. So what other questions? Unexpected Maker is also creating an S2 board like his Tiny Pico. I've heard of the Tiny Pico. Oh, so yeah. Well, I just saw your thing. I saw your thing on there. I don't know if I have. Do I have MQTT set up on this guy? There's Wi-Fi. No, I don't. I don't remember my test build of. So you think it should work with those sensors, Federico? You want to do it? We'll see what it happens. I don't remember what my I never forget what the password is I set on this stupid thing. I should have just set it password. But I'm sure they would probably say, no, you can't set it as that. I need to set it something simple. I always forget it. And yes, that's just a test VM that I don't expose anywhere. And I used it many times in videos and stuff. So no, you're not seeing any real passwords. And anyway, if it's just MQTT, since it's all local anyway, who cares? We'll leave it this regular topic. I wonder if I need I need to flash that new one though. I need to flash it again then. Cuz I downloaded did they recompile these as of today? I'm trying to remember if I have. Yeah, I had the sensors one on here. I went ahead and downloaded sensors. Let me just download sensors and reflash it. I want to make sure that I'm putting the right bin file on this guy. I'll reflash. It won't take but a second. Yeah, is it? Let's see if it's different. It should have a different commit, I'm assuming. Now we should be able just to do bin files on there. No, it's fine, home. We're gonna do other questions. That's fine. That's kind of I try to blow through a bunch of stuff and do that mind dump content stuff, but you can still get kind of off on some things, but that's not a problem. And because I kind of usually just kind of open it up to questions and kind of however we went through. While I'm flashing the sensors bin, it should work using the push, and we'll see. Start upgrade. Let's see what happens. SK681 RGB with Tasmoto in it. No, I have not done that with Tasmoto. Is it support? Is the SK68? That's, if correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the addressable pixels that are RGBW. I haven't done those. I've done those with WLED, and that's about it. I don't know if Tasmoto does the Tasmoto support the SK6812? I don't know if it does. Takes a little bit longer to upload these bin files. We'll see if it goes through. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Frederico. Yeah, I think it's just the WS ones. ESP Home may support it, but it seems like that's something I don't know the situation you're trying to do, but it seems like I always see people using like WLED for that. But I guess that's more like doing Christmas lights and stuff. So let's say Doc says it does, but I can't. Oh, really? Okay. Build date and time 6/18. So yeah, okay, this is a newer one. Okay, cool. So we're gonna try this, and we're gonna circle back to that. I'm gonna try this in set option. The console comes up faster now. Okay, maybe it's just the version I had yesterday, the day before, has that delay. It doesn't have a delay anymore. So we'll do set option 19.1 and see what happens. And Frederico is crossing his fingers. The difference in the firmware, if it has release, that is the quote unquote, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but the stable releases. And then if you don't have the word release in there, that's going to be the latest development. Now there is a risk in flashing the development. There could be some bad code in there, and then you could potentially flash that bad bin file onto, like, say, a plug that's sealed. So I would, if you're going to really get into flashing those development builds, and those are built like every so few hours every day, it's not a bad idea to try to flash that to a Wemos D1 Mini. I have one sitting here on the desk somewhere in my box crap of something somewhere. But it's not a bad idea to flash it to a Wemos D1 Mini or a Node MCU just to test it out. So we'll look at that, Aaron. Configuration, integrations. What's it gonna? I don't know. I remember what it came up as. Just probably Tasmoto. Look, there it is. Tasmoto ESP32 dev. And the state is not going to be in there just yet, but you can fix that if you want to do the telemetry, a less number. And we don't need this up here anymore. We'll go ahead and add this to Lovelace. We'll throw it in versus. And we'll say add to Lovelace UI. I wonder what the two bulbs are coming up as. The LED maybe on the, I don't remember. Let's see. Let me make it throw a state right quick. Or does it take a little bit to show? I was showing it's doing two bulbs as blue. I wonder why is it doing that? It got added as two entities. I'm not sure why. Oh, at three entities. That's weird. Or is that me because I was doing the older one? It's maybe because of the Lovelace thing. So, but it should work. Is it changing? Yeah, it is changing. Let me turn the, you can't really see because I got the stupid light on. And it blows out the camera. Yeah, so it does the RGB fine. And there's no white to that. I'm gonna see if this will work. We were talking about effects today, and seeing how the speed of them. I probably turn the brightness down a little bit so y'all can see it better. but the effects do work. So the console, how many relays? Which console? This one? I don't think there's set option 68. It's off. And configuration is just, here's the configuration. It's just PWM 1, 2, and 3. So it should just be like an RGB bulb. Set option, you want to take it out and put it back in? Or just do fire it again? Yep. So which? Yep. I said which one, Frederico? I just fire it up. It should pop in again. Yeah, I keep forgetting to do just SO. It's so entrained in my mind to do just SO. I'm gonna look at the integration right quick. See, it's showing as two bulbs for some reason in the integration. That one just says light Tasmoto, and then it just says light Tasmoto. Delete this one. How about we do that? I'm getting confused with this Tasmoto. Yeah, I'm gonna do configure template. Configure other. TAS32, and then we'll do relay 1 and see what happens. Yeah, and then it should force it again once I do this, I believe, right? Yeah. I think, but we'll do it again. SO19-1. You want to delete this device out? We'll delete it. Home Assistant's being stupid. And we'll put it back in. It could have been because I had the other one named the same, I guess. I don't know. We'll blame it on Home Assistant, right? It's not Frederico's fault. Or the ESP32. TAS32. Now it come up weird. Now look at it, it's just coming up as the just the one entity. We'll take it out and put it back. Oh, you think F5? Oh, you're right. Look at that. It did. I think you've messed with this a few times. It's still coming up as I don't know why that's coming up, because there's the relay 1, and then yeah, and it's coming to Tasmoto TAS32 Tasmoto 8. Maybe we'll take that one offline, and we'll look. It might be some bug with the ESP32 side of things, because it's tying both together, which is weird, as you can see. Let me make another view in Home Assistant. Configure UI plus, we'll call it ESP32. I'm sure there's probably a faster way to do that, but configuration, integrations. I still like, it's kind of cool that we haven't had to do any YAML code or anything to do any of this stuff. This stuff has come definitely a long way on both the Tasmoto side and the Home Assistant side. Yeah, so it's weird. It's tying them together. You see, it's tying them together, which is, you said go to on device page. in the JSON. And we can take this back offline. MQTT info. Oh, okay, cool. Attempt to parse MQTT. I didn't know you could do this. This is cool. And there's the config and the payload it sent. Now this is kind of badass. I like this. Look at the relays. It's like the ultimate. You get the dew point. See, I'm learning something new every time. Look at you, Federico. And it shows, there's the payload. What are we looking for here? If I'm scrolling too fast, let me know. There's the LWT we talked about. And see, it's throwing this Tasmoto 8 out there. Another light. So it's throwing a light. It's throwing a second one out there, it looks like. Yep. So open the 8. There's the 8. It's like it's the same one. And it very well could be Tasmoto 8. I think I did open it, didn't I? Oh, this one? Yeah, it's coming up. It's like it's the same thing. 'Cause that's what it's doing. It's doing command and the dimmer, of course, and the color. So that's why it's tying them together. Not sure why it's throwing out the same one. And of course, I can send you this exact. Yeah, it's using the same power. Yeah, so that's why it's just tied together. There shouldn't be. I don't know if you know the guy that does the auto discovery stuff, but you know, the config is simple. Frederico, it's I'll send you the template to you if you want. Yeah, I'm making it work for you, but maybe I'll try to see it put it on a 8266 and see how it goes. So, but it's cool. I mean, yeah, there's going to be little issues or whatever, but you can see ESP32 works. It pulls in the stuff. There's the dew point, the humidity, temperature, etc. And we didn't have to do this with all the YAML or YAML or however you want to pronounce it, Tasmoto, Tasmota, whatever. So pretty cool stuff. And doing the ESP32 stuff. That'd be really cool once we can get up to the other additional 16 or whatever it is on the switches. The dew point, that's like how much Mountain Dew that you've drank during the day. No, I'm joking. That's a bad joke. I think that has to do with like, isn't that like, I don't know. They look deep dew point. I know it's a calculation of the pressure, humidity, and the temperature and all that, and the water droplets will begin to condense and dew will form. So there you go. You can learn something for the day, and let's see. At least I taught you something. What dew point is. What else do we have? That was all I really had. I had one other question. Someone was asking about MCP 808 or something like that. I saw back here. And the WSSK6812 question. I know when to look at. Back to Pogo Pins. You've seen the probe jig on Thingiverse. Which probe jig? The one we just did, Nexus? What was that board? Who said that? The MCP 80. I saw the thing. I can't find. MCP 9808. What is that one? I've used the MCP. I thought I just saw that one as a commit on Tasmoto. I think because I think I clicked that link. I want to say I just saw that as a commit in this repository. Yep. in the commit, add support for up to 8 MCP 9808 temperature sensors. That was 17 days ago. So it is in the development of Tasmoto. So there you go. The MCP 9808. You can use it, but you just need to flash the development version, which is fine anyway. So it's I2C sensor. Let's zoom in. One of the more accurate and precise we've seen. Typical accuracy of 0.25 Celsius. Nice. 3 address pins. I2C. Yes, okay. And it's 2.7 to 5.5 volts. Cool. So just another, you're trying to get me to buy another I2C sensor. I get it. So that one should be fine because there's your voltage, ground, clock, data, and they probably got some other pins for alert. And these address probably for trying to change the, probably have to pull them high or low to change the I2C address probably. And that's why they probably do allow up to 8 of them. So, what was we going? The SK6, it says it does. I haven't used them before. I don't see it. I don't know if you see where it has it in the docs where there's WS2812. There's the WS2812 stuff. I'd be looking for days for the LED stuff. Dew point below temp. It is raining. There you go. That's a good way to go with it. I'm looking for if I can find the LED stuff. There should be a link to another page, but I can't find it offhand. Check project 2 on Thingiverse. Can I just put the number in there? This one? Ah, okay. That's pretty cool. Is this the one I think you were talking about? Looks like the number matches. So you're printing out the number of arms and then look like some little wing nuts and have some pogo pins. It's a little more to print out, but it looks very, very versatile on what you're trying to flash. And even that's interesting. I like that because then you can probably even get, if your pogo pins are small enough that you're using on these, you could probably even flash something that would straight to the ESP8266 itself. That's a good idea, Aaron. So that would be cool. Look, there's an issue about it. Doesn't seem to be working properly. That was 2018. Where's it at? Did you do settings or something like that? Tools? Yeah, this one. About this past year. Someone's got platform IO. What are they using? They're doing their custom. So what is your issue you're having with it, Aaron? I know you may have to compile your own. I've had to do that with another little WS2812 I did where the colors are backwards and you have to, that's the color order is set at compile time. So what is exactly the issue you were having? Possibly, um, that's one of the issues. Yes, yes, yes. What is he saying yes about? The spider type, yeah. And yeah, Jonathan does some good stuff on he's got some crazy along with crazy build stuff. Yeah, there's even I guess we can look at this. This is another way I've always found mobile development and do a search in this repository. So the NeoPixel bus library they use and supports it. I want to see where else they have SK6. Is it listed in the config? It actually is. Define 6812. Yeah, my user config. Oh, look, you do need it. You're probably going to have to. Have you compiled your own? I bet you're going to have to compile your own. And I'm not so used to this screen being so blown up on me. I'm going to look in here at the code. Tasmota. See, I can't do it. Sounds wrong. 6812. Yeah, see, look, like if you compiled you would need to actually have this replaced. Apparently you set as WS strips or another value period of control. Would you expect color schemes to affect brightness? That's fine, home. Look, I pick on myself more than if, and I hope people don't take me serious sometimes in some of the comments I make back to some of these people, but it's when they try to be like a smart ass comment, I'm usually smart ass back and end up picking on myself in some way, and I don't know how they think to take it times, but it's fun. So, so not at all. I'll have to. I have a strip. I probably won't get to it for another week or so. If I forget, because I might have this Jedi mind wipe around lunchtime tomorrow. Remind me, and I'll want to check out. I have a couple 5-volt strips that I could hook up in of the SK6812. And I could compile it and see what I get with on that hardware. So it does support it, but you will have to compile your own bin. So, using that, but I'll just check it out and see, because it looks like you do. Basically, what you have to do is, now I'm probably doing it wrong, and Frederico would probably explain it better. Because this is how I've done it before. I'm pulling up VSC here. Let me pull up a project. Open. All right. I'm going to have to really resize this window because I have it on my widescreen. And I have it really small and stuff, but we'll get to the bulk of it. So WS28. So I have these are all like commented out, but basically what I'll have to do is pull this one in, and then I should probably pull the SK6812 to pass to that library, and then I'll have to pull the order, like if it's RGB W, and or I have to play with the order of them, whether it's like RGBW or GRBW. I can't remember what my strip was, but I could find out and compile this, and then it should work. Picking, I think if you still pick the WS2812 pin in the layout, and it should work. But you have to compile your own bin for this, and you could do that like in. I'm not trying to scare anybody of it because it's really simple. I'm trying not to be a smart ass this late in the day, but if you look on here compiling, there's a lot of different ways you can compile and actually they do say that Gitpod is actually gonna be probably one of your easiest ones because you don't have to install anything, and it's just like kind of think of it as like VSC in the cloud. Like your own little Docker setup in the cloud, and you can do your own configurations and stuff in there. And it's real simple to do the Gitpod stuff. I actually did a live stream way back on it. But there's also Tasmo compiler. I've seen people using that. I haven't done that one myself. I just use Visual Studio Code with Platform IO, and I bring it down and I compile that way. I do it all local, but of course you can use Gitpod too. So. But it's pretty simple to do. And it's straightforward how to build your own bin files. And if anybody's thinking about doing that, it's pretty simple. You can put I like to do a Tuya convert. Is I'll put my own Wi-Fi SSID and password in the bin file, and I put it on my Tuya convert. And that way I say flash my bin file, and boom, it automatically gets on my Wi-Fi. So yeah, if you're familiar with using VS Code and Platform IO, then yeah, you can just follow it through on here on how to do stuff. It's pretty simple to do. I don't know if they do talk about it, and I've made the mistake a couple times is I'll have to go edit the Platform IO file, and which is this one here. And I'll just uncomment just Tasmoto. Otherwise, if you hit build, it builds all these different Tasmoto files, and it's annoying and takes forever. So they probably talk about that in there. So yeah. So what did you learn, Frederico? What are you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? All right. So we ran a whole 2 hours. Wow. On just Tasmoto stuff. Okay. That's not a problem. I've probably got a bunch of, we still have, oh, see, look, hey, I even learned that too, Frederico, is I was like at first, I was like, oh no, it doesn't do 6812. Probably does 68. We use the NeoPixel library supports it. So it's just not exposed through set options. I guess it's just not a lot of people do it. So what else? I don't think we have anything else unless anybody has any burning questions or anything. I'll still be around. I'll be out in the wild. I don't say blue yonder because it ain't blue out there. Any preference between Martin Jerry and the Ghost Sun Tuya switches? The Ghost Suns are 40. I'll be blunt with you on the, and I said it before, don't buy the Ghost Sun dimmers. Those are weird. They're like a weird wannabe Tuya protocol, and you got to do scripting, and then they have some issues with the scripting, and so don't buy those. The Ghost Sun switches, they're more, and I'll show you one right quick. They're more clicky, and I do have one that's kind of like it. I'm trying to find a picture on the other side for you. But it's an older picture. But this is where I'm heading tomorrow. So, um, but let's see. So that's yeah. So that's where and that's an older picture, but that's where we'll be heading out. So it's a pretty cool area. Yeah, let me grab that. Let's be the last thing we'll do because I gotta get up at like 6.5 hours. Hold up. Let's see. I know, and this is a common question, and so I get a lot of people asking which ones, and yeah, I'll fix the zoom here in a second, and I'll put one up to the mic so you can kind of hear it. It's just preference down to what you like or don't like. This is the Martin Jerry switches, and you can see the difference of what they use behind there, and they're just little. This is just a Martin Jerry switch. It's just a little button, and so it's just that little bitty button right here, and it's so some people say it's kind of a hollow sound. They don't like it, but it doesn't have much travel, and I like that. And dinosaur fossils, yeah. That's in East Texas, by the way, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. So this is kind of like I think Kesson actually makes those for GoSun, but this one is the Martin Jerry. This is the Martin Jerry 3-way, but it's the same. And you see there's not a lot of, I'll stop moving around. You can see there's not a lot of travel. I can stop shaking my hand. There's not a lot of travel to the button. And the sound of it is kind of people call it a hollow sound sometimes. And then this is more of the clicky. And you see it's got more of a travel. You see how it's got more travel to it to push it in, and it's got more of a clicky sound to it. So it just depends on what you like. They're going to be pretty much, I would probably say the same. I mean, I don't really look at the amperage really on a switch anymore. Most of them are 10 amp or 15 amps, but I'm not switching anything that's 10 or 15 amps in my house. I mean, typically I have the ceiling fan or the lights, but they're all LEDs. But this is kind of the same thing. This actually is that GoSun dimmer. It's weird, but it's kind of that same clicky sound. It does have a lot of travel to it, and compared to the Martin Jerry dimmer, I should probably turn it off before I start mashing the buttons. It's the same thing. It doesn't have a lot of travel to it, and it's a quieter sound. Just depends. They're gonna be the same on what you do, because the Martin Jerry ones, there is a red and a blue LED in it, and they are controllable on GPIO pins, so you can do what you want to do with those GPIO pins, whether you want to have them not on at all, or you can use them as status lights. Like I know another person was talking about using the red or blue to like status lights. Hey, is the alarm panel armed or disarmed? I've actually done some other stuff where long presses would turn on and off an automation in the room, and then it would set the LED to like red, showing that an automation was off or on in that particular room. So you can control those LEDs. And now the Ghost Suns, now you can, give me too many switches. The Ghost Suns, they do, I want to say it's green and red, I believe, in here. And so you can, they're not tied hard. I know the latest revisions aren't hardwired, so you can control those to do what you want with those. So, and if you really get crazy with it, you can set those as PWM as well. And I think you may have to use that set option, but then you could control, you could actually control the brightness of the LEDs. So another little idea. I think that's set option 68, I believe, Frederico. I think if that would work, you can do the split and get, would that give you 2 sliders? I haven't done that in a while. That way you could do a slider for the LEDs to change the brightness of them, if it's too bright in a bedroom or something like that. So, yeah, they are bright. So yeah, I see. I'm not sure either. I'd have, and I don't have a whole lot of time to fire it up and start. But if you assign PW, try it. Go to the template. Go to the configure template page. If you've done it in there, you should see like LED link or LED 1 or LED 2. And it may be eyes for inverted. Change them to PWM 1i and PWM 2i. And you may have to look for the set option. Try to look at 68, I think it is, maybe. All of Texas is in the middle of nowhere. Yes, it is. But it's a good thing. I don't know if I had, I was looking for another one I took over there that was kind of cool. It was cool as to go up on the hill and there's no, there's like no light pollution at all. So you can just go see all the stars and everything. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so this is my PWM rule. It's kind of south of, I don't know if you know Henderson, Texas. It's south of Tyler, south of Henderson. PWM rule on power, 1 state equals 0. And we're just going for a few days out there. Father's Day thing. Flatonia. Okay. Well, I'll have to look at that set rule. You're trying to set the LEDs, so so we'll have to play with that. Maybe that's another thing we'll play with. I kind of did that. That was like one of my first videos I did when I was trying to do control LEDs, and I probably didn't know a whole lot what I was doing. I learned a lot since then, but maybe we'll mess around with that again, doing LEDs on the switch. So I think I was also with a switch that did not have 2 LEDs either. So, but hopefully I did not. That was who was asking about the the switches. Hopefully I've given you some good decisions on things. If someone has, I think there was somebody took some pictures of them recently. I would like to see, I know there's been several revisions of the GoSun switches. I would like to see can make the LED purple. Yeah, if you turn on red and blue, you'll make it purple. I would like to see the inside of those GoSun switches. And I'm kind of curious, because I remember they used to have open pin headers, and someone said the open pin headers went away, and but then they were back, and I just don't know what I'm kind of curious to see what they are at this point. And I may have some of those listed on my page, by the way, on some of the GoSun stuff. So if you want to look through, I may have them listed on there. If not, I'm I don't know if I do have the Go Sun switches listed on there. Yeah, they actually I do right there. Yeah, so that's not a bad deal. That's 10. It's actually not a bad. That's not too bad. That's $10 a switch. That's pretty cheap. That's kind of not hard to pass up. I fully understand. If it depends on if you like the clicky or not. So that's the link to the Go Suns. So, wondering what when does Tasmoto run on ESP01? Is that those little? I have a bunch of them. I don't know if did they have 512K or something like that, or kilobyte. I forget kilobytes of flash. I thought some of them have 1 meg. ESP01. Yeah, and if you do use those links, I get probably 5 cents off of them or whatever. But so just full disclosure there. It didn't change the price though. So yeah, I have a few of those. I haven't used them in a while. Those ESP01s. I don't know which ones I have. Whether they have. Yeah, it's a little bit. It is a little bitty. Does it say what flash they have on them? Is it because they don't say the flash? So they don't want you to know? I guess you could put light on there. You could put light on there. Yeah, you could put. I said the same. I'm like my son. It's the same thing over and over. You could put light on those things, and if you did compile your own bin, you could go through like that dimmer file that I do. I'd get it down to like 460, 470K, and that's even with auto discovery in it. And so you can get them down if you compile your own stuff and take out all the sensors you don't need, or you can get it down to below that 512. But just remember, you cannot do an OTA. You'll always have to flash it serial. So, cool. Well, I think that's about it. Probably one of the longest ones I've done. Two and a half, 240. I don't even know what that says, Dale. Want the ones that you could load digi-stump drivers and make them something like Bad Bunny or Hack? Oh, is that the? I remember I still remember the other thing was that they were trying to say Node Red and it was no bread or something like that. So, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do more than we'll do. No, we're good here. So I do them always too late anyway. So, which one has I squared C? If you did compile your own binary. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, the little dry. I know you're talking about, Dale. I know you're talking about now. And I wasn't picking on you anyway. So if you get to compile your own, yes, I do compile one that I use, and I'm looking at the file size right now. This is probably the last thing. Is I compile my own with I2C, and I use that MCP 23017 because I had that on an iFan to drive a panel, and so I have to compile my own bins. And right now I'm looking at, with I2C and some couple power monitoring stuff, I'm looking at 400. Probably around 4. Wait, hang on, I gotta look at the right one. Ovens 486K, and so it just really depends on what features you put in. So Oh, I appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And yeah, I keep saying the last thing. So um, yeah, so you, I'll hit me up on. Make sure and do hit me up on Discord, and when I do get back, and then when I'll get something with those drivers going. Um, since you couldn't find a flash it or more switches. Oh, that was that module, Randy. I believe I've never seen that module. I wish we had more time, but it was like a RM3 module or something like that. I don't know if that is ESP8266. I don't know. Um, do you have your Tasmoto Wi-Fi? No, I do not have them on a separate router. I have them on a separate VLAN, but um, I don't. Let's see. I'm trying to find my devices. I want to say right now I've got 63 right now, Tasmoto devices, and I've probably got about 100 um, Wi-Fi devices. So, and I don't have any issues. But I got two ubiquity access points. I don't have any issues with it. So no, um, but it the MQTT stuff is like minimal in bandwidth. So it's they don't do anything. Is your HAC different V? Yeah, it uses. Well, I just use MQTT across it, so it's fine. So we just allow MQTT to come across the VLAN. So, well, I could hang out and answer questions all day, all night, evening, and all day, but I can't. I still got some actual packing to do, and we'll definitely have to. I know I had a big gap between, but I've been too busy with work and other stuff and trying to do other projects. But I will try to get back and do some. I don't have a schedule of live streams because of stuff I normally got going on. But we'll try to do some additional ones instead of being so far spread out. So I appreciate y'all hanging out, and hope we didn't fall asleep through a lot of the stuff. And y'all take care, and definitely jump in Discord. I'll still be in there a little bit in on the vacation. So, but y'all take it easy, and y'all take care.